Drage kolegice i kolege, cijenjeni članovi i simpatizeri, hvala vam što ste izdvojili vrijeme da priučestvujete na današnjem webinaru koji organiziramo u saradnji sa našim partnerom PBH Technologies ili u našoj zemlji bolje poznatim pod nazivom Printekom, i naravno pod pokroviteljstvom svjetskog proizvođača antifraud rješenja INETCO Systems Limited. Ono što smo mogli vidjeti prethodnih dana jeste da je broj cyber napada u Europi zvanično veći nego u Aziji, iako je Azija po populaciji puno veća, po zastupljenosti tih tehnoloških kompanija isto tako vrlo jaka. Međutim, broj cyber napada u Europi je puno veći nego u Aziji i na takav način Europa zvanično postala kontinent sa najvećim brojem cyber napada u svijetu. Najveći broj cyber napada je financijski motivisan i ogleda se u vidu financijskih prevara. Posljedice takvih prevara naravno trpe prije svega preduzeća, ali nerijetko i banke. Takav trend sigurno nije zaobišao ni Bosnu i Hercegovinu, pa Bosna i Hercegovina svakako nije izuzetak. Na današnjem webinaru ćemo pokazati, odnosno vidjeti na koji način se sve to ogledava u smislu prevara, kako one funkcionišu. A na našem zadnjem meetupu smo također vidjeli da je jedan najveći uzroka štete koju pretrpe preduzeća u Bosni i Hercegovini takozvani business email compromise, odnosno u suštini prevara koja je vrlo česta i koja itekako utječe na firme u Bosni i Hercegovini, koje postaju svakodnevno sve interesantnije, ali isto tako i na banke. Ono što je interesantno jeste da se predviđa da će gubici po pitanju financijskih prevara do 2027. godine na svjetskom nivou narasti na, ja mogu reći, enormnih 40 milijardi dolara. Iako banke zaista ulažu puno napora da se takav broj napada smanji. I evo, recimo, ja sam bio svjedok prije nekoliko dana kad je kolega zvao i tako razgovarali smo i rekao mi je da je upravo zaustavio transakciju gdje je čak i klijent mislio da je legitimna, ali kasnije se ispostavilo da je u pitanju prevara. I banke su svaki dan sve uspješnije, međutim i dalje postoji velika borba između kriminalaca i banaka. I ono što je vrlo bitno naglasiti jeste da uspješna odbrana zahtijeva implementaciju prije svega strategije. Na koji način se boriti protiv takvog tipa prevara, protiv takvog tipa napada, identificirati i zaustaviti sumnjive transakcije u realnom vremenu, što nije uvijek tako lako, te korištenje savremenih alata poput vještačke inteligencije. Naravno, treba sagledati tipove napada i različite scenarije kako bi i strategiju i ove gore sve pristupe mogli adekvatno kombinovati. Danas mi je čast predstaviti našeg prezentatora Carlosa Larrañagu, koji će nam pokazati kako kompanija INETCO Systems Limited koristeći savremene tehnologije u kombinaciji sa algoritmima vještačke inteligencije odgovara na ove izazove i na koji način pomaže bankama u efikasnoj i efektivnijoj identifikaciji i sprječavanju provedbe sumnjivih transakcija. Carlos, it's a pleasure to have you here with us today. I would like to ask you, please take the stage and show these people how INETCO responds to this type of challenges.
Thank you, Senat. First of all, good afternoon to everyone. I would like to thank the opportunity you gave to Printec, our partner, and INETCO to show the different options and solutions that we are bringing to the market and helping a lot of customers in the world, in more than 35 countries. I would speak in English. I'm sorry, I don't speak anything rather than Spanish, English, and Portuguese, which is good so far, but not for this environment or this audience. I'm sorry, I will have to do it in English. So One note before we start is that please, let's make this interactive. So if you have any questions during the presentation, the webinar, please write them in the message pane, into the text pane you have here, or you can just open your mic and ask any questions. You can do it in local language. I will have the help of the local team, the organization team, to translate it into English and back from English to local language. So please do it as you please. And from a personal perspective, I'm Carlos Larrañaga, the Regional Sales Manager of INETCO. I do cover Europe, Latin America, East countries, Russia, Israel, and Turkey from a sales perspective. And I'm working for INETCO for almost 5 years. And before that, I spent 20 years working in the finance sector for BBVA in Spain and in Latin America as well, with local and corporate positions. So without any delay, I will start the presentation. Kenan, I don't know if you as partner, you would like to say something?
Well, thanks, Carlos. Just to add on to what you and Senad have said, it's really a pleasure to have so many people on board on this webinar, and to thank both of you guys for facilitating it. I've seen what INETCO's portfolio can do previously, not only for the banks, but other players as well. And I'm very eager to see on this webinar how you position it, and very happy that this audience will be able to participate. So thanks, and go on.
Sure. Thank you. Then we are starting the presentation, which will initially cover, I think that you should be able to see my screen now. We initially will cover an introduction of what we are and what we do, and then we will go through 8 important must-have components, we call them, for an effective payment fraud detection framework. Please, again, if you have any questions, write them in the text pane or interrupt me and verbally speak out without any problem. So let's talk about payment fraud. So first of all, who INETCO is, who we are. It's a private company based in Vancouver, in Canada. We have customers in more than 35 countries, and we cover the complete finance ecosystem, from banks, payment processors, retailers, card issuers, independent ATM deployers. We have a lot of different types of customers. We will see that our solution is mainly focused on gathering the data. We are going to talk a lot about data today, but we cover the concept of transaction monitoring, and then using the data being captured for analytics purpose in our platform. You will see that this has been built specifically for the payment ecosystem. Let's get some numbers before that. So before 2020, the leader of one of the most important problems that the finance industry has regarding the cyber attacks was Asia. In 2020, Europe, replaced that first position. So this is really important because COVID had an impact, a really big impact, not just on the transformation of the way customers are approaching their providers, banks, payment processors, retailers, etc., with more digital transactions instead of physical, but also the cyber attacks have increased as well. And Europe is one of the main focuses right now. I'm going to tell you a real case. This is something that happened as a matter of fact. So imagine that you are having a coffee during a vacation period with your family, and then you receive a text that a transaction was made with your card. In this case, the customer called the bank and said, well, look, I've just received this message saying that my card has been used and I am not using my card, or this is not me doing this transaction. The consequence was that that bank had to return to the customer $50,000 in a matter of minutes. This was, of course, a real attack, and you can see how in minutes you can have a really big problem from a fraud perspective. How can we avoid this? So let's talk about the problem per se. So right now, if you can see these numbers from Merchant Savvy Co. UK, the fraud volumes, but also the frauds per transaction or per cent spent are really increasing constantly. There's no decline, and it will continue like that. So you can see that the numbers are really, really difficult to control, and it's an issue that has to be at least, you have to have the way to at least focus and confront the situation with the tranquility that you have the tools at least to detect this in time. Okay, let's talk about changing the mindset. Changing the mindset with our solution, what our customers say to us, it's not INETCO saying. Of course, we got this message from them and we are using it now, but it's their experience. And you can go to our website, inetco.com, and under the case studies, you will find real cases explained by our own customers. And one of the most important things is that they change the way they monitor, not just for fraud, but also from an IT perspective or operations perspective or customer experience perspective as well. They change their mindset to reactive to proactive. So that means that they changed the way they reacted when they were having an incident in production or a fraud, a possible fraud, a suspicious activity. They were alerted after that was happening. What we did is basically give them the possibility to be alerted that something was going to happen in real time, in order for them to react before it happens or at the same time it's happening, in order to block those transactions. So from that moment, they started to have enough data to change the way they modeled the fraud fight from reactive to proactive. But the most important thing is that they started having real data in real time, clear enough to just use it to make decisions and not starting an investigation. That can be done afterwards, but immediately you have to make something. You have to do something with that data, right? So that's what we gave to them, data in order to change the mindset. And that leads me to this slide where this is a constant feeding of the monitoring and detection model, which starts with capturing the data of the transactions, understanding and being able to extract all the information inside every single protocol being transferred for any channel, any type of transaction. It doesn't matter if it is ATM, POS, e-commerce, internet banking, mobile, or other channels that you might eventually have. First, capturing all transactions, decoding everything, and being absolutely sure that I can count on all possible data of all transactions. After that, we can detect. You can be able to investigate. You can create these data repositories or databases where you will be able to even create all possible analysis and introducing new behaviors into that analysis in order to be ready to predict and to react when something happens, and back again, because banks and customers are alive and behaviors change constantly. So you need some tool, some solution that is not just monitoring, but also alerting you, but learning from all the data that is being captured and all the changes of behaviors of your customers. And learning from that will prevent, again, and predict all possible fraud situations. And back, that's a circle where you are learning constantly from the reality you are receiving and experiencing from the transactions. So let's go now into the 8 must-have components that we are introducing today to you. The first one would be, again, data. Having access to unlimited data across all channels in real time, clean data to be used, not silos that you have across your company or your enterprise, your company, and sometimes in different formats. The contents are not comparable, and sometimes even they are not up to date, or they are not updated in real time. You have a delay until you can use that data. So first, unlimited access to data. Second will be, once you have the data in real time, you can monitor all possible events, from transaction failures, possible frauds, possible attacks of man in the middle, or any change of behaviors, geographic localization of transactions, or any other event that you would like to monitor, from transaction volumes, amount volumes, everything can be monitored in real time. The way we capture the data, and this is very important, the way we capture the data is directly from the network. That means that we will pursue the transaction from the moment it starts until the moment it ends. Being approved or not, that's not the matter. The matter is understanding what happened in every single step that transaction went through. So we follow the transaction for the complete journey, and we capture all the data of every single step, every single protocol at network level being transferred from one link to other link. That means that you will be able also to profile and monitor what is happening in every single link of that journey. From that moment, you have the complete visibility on the whole transaction journey. You have all the protocols, you have every single field contained into those protocols in any channel and any type of transaction, so you can build any rule you can imagine from a business perspective, IT perspective, operations, fraud, customer experience, and alert you in order to react or prevent the situation or the moment it is happening, and the identifying what is happening and where is happening in my infrastructure, or avoiding to affect more people with that situation because you detected what is happening, when it's happening, and you can react immediately to correct that situation and not wait a lot of time to understand what is happening or get other departments involved, when you can have the diagnosis of that event in real time. As part of the solution, we can also include a machine learning algorithm, a module that can work in a supervised mode or unsupervised mode. We will go through that, but basically the machine learning is the piece of our solution that will profile all transactions, behaviors, and alert you if something is going out of the thresholds of the limits that the algorithm understands it's the normal behavior. So you don't need to do anything. The system will alert you, okay? And will also learn itself from those transactions that are being okay, being approved, and the transactions that are not being approved, they or could be a fraud. So the system will learn itself with the experience in real time. That means that you will be able to process behavioral analysis. understanding the typical behavior of your customers. That's a really powerful tool that gives you the opportunity, the possibility to understand not just single transactions, but also behaviors of groups of people, okay, groups of customers, per region, per type of transaction, per age, etc., etc., etc. After that, and when transactions are detected and being suspicious, you can include that information into workflows in order to confirm and learn that those transactions finally were fraud, and the system can understand those type of transactions for future analysis in the system as well. So it could be, as I was saying, supervised or unsupervised. In this case, we can integrate with your internal workflows for the analysis and deeper understanding of those events, fraudulent events. And last but not least would be, after we can capture that data is not being used only for Insight as a solution, INETCO Insight, but can also be used to be exported to other solutions and be integrated with your corporate database. Rather, it is structured in Hadoop or Postgres or Oracle, whatever corporate database you have, we can integrate that. But as well, the real alerts in real time can be connected in real time to other solutions you might have. So this is not meant to replace any solution you might have. In the contrary, it will complement with rich data in real time any solution that you might have. So if you don't have a solution like this one, of course, this is your solution. Otherwise, if you already have one, but it's not completed, doesn't have real-time events or real-time information, you can use this also as a data feeder for your solutions in real time. So up to now, before we go deeper into the 8 must-have components, any questions or doubts so far?
There are no questions so far.
All right. Let's move forward then. Okay, let's talk about unlimited access to real-time payment transaction data. So remember that any decision, please, can you mute? Mike? Thank you. So what I was saying is, keep in mind during the whole presentation, during the whole webinar today, is that your payment security will be as good as your data and your ability to access that data in the right time is. So remember, data is fundamental. It's just critical for this. If you don't have the capability to understand what is happening in real time, you will not be able to block or avoid certain types of behaviors, fraudulent behaviors. So data is fundamental. What's the meaning of unlimited access to real-time data? That means that across all channels, and regardless the infrastructure they have, the solution you have, the architecture you're built in, or whatever solution you might have in place, we collect the data directly from the network. That means that we don't need to interact with databases, applications, or servers. We connect to the wire, and from there, we collect the data at TCP level. That means that we are agnostic in terms of if you have web, mobile, and branch and ATMs, we can connect to those channels. If you don't have any of those, but you have other channels, we can connect as well. So the easiest way to implement is not interacting with your systems, but capturing the data directly from the network, which allows us to collect the data in every single field and link across the complete journey. Data will be decoded, those protocols will be decoded in real time and will be stored into a INETCO Insight database. As I was saying, that data will be exported as well to your corporate database if you want, But the first stage will be stored into a single database across all channels and all transactions. That means that you can build into Insight any dashboard or alert in order to have full control of all operations in all channels. The second thing that it is really important, the second must-have component, is tracing payments through the complete infrastructure of your company. So remember that transactions, as an example, they will a withdrawal or an e-commerce payment or a login into your internet banking platform, it will start at the customer level. It will start with the mobile or the computer or an ATM or POS. But those transactions, that payment will be turned into a protocol, and that protocol will be received into your firewall. From the firewall, it will go through different pieces of your infrastructure: balancers, application servers, transactional switch, the banking host, if you are a host if you are a bank. And if the transaction is not an on-us transaction, it will be sent to a payment processor or received from a payment processor, and then you will receive that transaction and process it. And then it will go back with the answer. So the idea is, across all these steps, the firewall, the balancer, the switch, application servers, whatever it is, you need to have complete visibility of what is happening. What's the timing of each hop? What are the responses of your applications? What's the content of that transaction? Is it between limits? Is it not? Also from a, I would say, money laundering perspective, you would like to have transactions detected above certain amounts in certain channels. So you can have the power of controlling all these transactions in real time in every single step of the journey in your complete infrastructure. This is an example of an eGlobal real-time analytic dashboard. eGlobal is one of our customers in Mexico. In Latin America, I would say that is the largest customer that we have, processing 600 million transactions per month. And they use INETCO Insight as a monitoring solution and as a data feeder for their fraud solution. So we are the first layer of security and monitoring, and the data we capture is fed in real time into their own developed fraud solution. So as you can see, they have full control of everything what is happening, from transactions approved, rejected by insufficient acts, or if authorization was declined, or what is the status of certain cards, or maybe there's no CCV code when an online transaction is happening. So they have full control of every single transaction. This is a photo of their NOC. In this NOC, this is just one photo. They have more screens and dashboards. This is kind of a war room. They have more than 200 online and real-time dashboards to control their complete operations. They are a payment processor, and they sit between banks and retailers, e-commerce and physical retailers. So basically, they are the common knot where everything goes to and through. So they need to serve banks and they need to serve merchants. And in the end, they have the final customers of maybe, I would say, 60% of all transactions in Mexico. So this is the way they can monitor every event, every single transaction, channels, connections, etc. This is Ander Murillo, the Deputy Director of Big Data Technologies at eGlobal. And after they installed our solution, we started just as a monitoring solution. then we progressed the installation, and they understood the importance of having data in real time. And we turned from a simple monitoring solution to a solution that gave to them flexibility and visibility that they were needing for speeding up and giving them the ability of making decisions in order to detect and fight against fraud. So again, don't see this as a technical solution, because it is, but not just that. It is also a solution that, providing the proper data at the proper time, gives you the chances and the tools to fight clearly against fraud. The third point is related to the links. Some transactions, for many reasons, but one of the most common reasons would be disconnections, in this case more affected for technological issues. Transactions could be missing links, but also for something that I will talk a bit later on, which is the malware attack, okay, the man-in-the-middle attack. When something happens like that, you have missing links in transaction. A transaction that started, like in this case, a withdrawal in an ATM, it goes to a switch, then it goes to a concentrator switch, and then it goes to the authorization host. The transaction should follow the complete path. In this case, the transaction went to here and immediately went back with the OK, the authorization. So it missed all this internal part. Traditional fraud solutions, they focus the analysis on this back-end side of the infrastructure. They don't see that part before the switch. They usually see at the switch or before or after the switch, but never before the switch. So the problem is traditional fraud solutions will be blind during this type of attacks. Because we monitor every single link, we can detect missing links in real time. Just to give you an idea of what means false declines in terms of numbers. So the perception is that the expectation is that 443 billion in revenues will be lost due to false declines. Sometimes because you don't have the capability to analyze data and transactions in real time, you could be declining transactions that are not fraudulent transactions. Our solution is not just to help the possibility of identifying fraudulent transactions, but also to understand with our machine learning algorithm, with the alerts and the self-learning of the solution, the capability of not declining transactions that are okay and shouldn't be declined. That gets the customer angry. It's a bad customer experience, and you might be losing a lot of money. So our solution is not just focused on what is wrong, but also what it shouldn't be wrong, and it is okay. You shouldn't touch that transaction. The question of the level of service. Remember that having the capability of understanding what is going on with your infrastructure, with your channels, your transactions, your customers, and your infrastructure, I'm sorry. It gives you the opportunity to understand exactly when something happens, where to put the efforts to solve the issue, and not just try to understand or put the efforts on understanding, but put the efforts on solving the issue. That is exactly what happened with BKM. They had a tremendous increase in Turkey. This is also a payment processor in Turkey. They had an increase of transactions, a brutal increase in the last years. And they were having difficulties understanding where they were having issues and problems. with our solution, they could understand exactly in real time where those problems were and how to solve them, because the incident is brought to your attention by a real-time alert. So you don't have to lose time trying to understand where the problem is. You know immediately where the problem is. And then understanding the problem allows you to focus the effort immediately on dedicating your resources, which are really expensive usually, to what really it is important to your customers and the SLAs that you are giving to them. So that's exactly what happened with BKM. We can tell you that the mean time to repair average was reduced by between 85 to 90%. They tell us 88%. That means that they increased the number of transactions that were declined because they didn't have the capability to identify the problems and solve them fast by 26%. So they started to increase their incomes by 26% just because they could be able to solve their problems faster. So it's not just, again, a matter of an IT solution or a monitoring solution or a fraud solution. This is a customer experience solution that allows you to bring better service to your customers. This is a screenshot of the star form dashboard. This is the overview, what we call the overview, where this is the internal switch they have for payment processing, and this is the connections to all the entities, customers that are using their payment platform. So immediately you realize that everything is green, or they have no transactions at that time, but everything is green. You can realize the volumes, the thicker it is, the higher the volume transaction volume is, the thinner it is, less transactions they are processing. And also here you have, and in the down in the bottom area of your screen, the different alerts that can be triggered or defined in order to understand what is happening. If you are having an issue, an issuer which is not responding, or you're having a network issue, or you have a specific response code that you want to monitor specifically, in this case, response code 96, or whatever is the situation that we want to be alerted. These alerts can be defined absolutely by you. You will be given the proper training in order to be self-sufficient in the management of the solution, 99.9% of the solution. You can be an administrator and change things, change alerts, create dashboards, change dashboards, even put new transactions. So everything is quite interesting from a management perspective as well, and self-sufficiency. This is the level of detail that you can reach with a transaction, where you have here all the TCP events, the TCP protocols that being captured. You can select one, and on the right side of the screen, you will see field by field the content of every single field of that protocol. If you change the protocol, this will update to show you the content of that protocol, decoded field by field. And in the bottom side of the screen, you will see the complete journey of the transaction from Visa authorization network to the switch and to DenizBank in this case. So again, full control, full visibility, and this data is completely stored into Insight and can be used afterwards for you for other purposes. This was a statement for the VP of Switch System and Application. That was the holistic real-time view allowed them to have a faster engagement when they were having issues, and they could immediately investigate not just the issue, but also solving it in less time, 88%, if you recall from the last slide. So that was really one of the best implementations that we have in the region here. These are just examples of the different types of alerts that can be created by you. This is the fourth must-to-have point that I would like to talk about today. You can see that there are a lot of different options. And again, this is 100% configurable. So don't stay on the idea that you will be able only to monitor these. These are just examples of alerts already being implemented in other customers. This is just an example. So any possible alert can be created and implemented by you, because you will be trained to do so alone without the intervention of any third-party entity. Let's talk about money in the middle. Remember that we were talking about controlling all the links, having full control. So if you receive a transaction coming from a international or national, but of us transaction, you will receive it to the payment network. If it's a known terminal, you will receive it in your own terminal or your own network. And then you will process that in the backend with the authorization host. You will validate a lot of things, and you will go through an internal process. And then afterwards, you will go back with the answer, approved or declined. But if a malware, and this is a real case, if a malware attacks the transaction switch, that backend will be compromised, and you will not be receiving transactions because transactions will be authorized immediately. So you will be blind in this side of your infrastructure. But we can detect immediately that these links in here, these all links that you might be processing, are missing. And we can block those transactions in real time to avoid money in the middle attacks. We are the only solution in the world right now that is really efficient against money in the middle attacks. This case, of course, I cannot give you the details, some details of this case, but there was a real case that we were contacted by this entity that they became afterwards our customer. But the issue they had is that they had an attack where they suffer a loss of $19 million in less than 3 hours. National and international transactions, massive cash out attack, $19 million in less than 3 hours. So after when they became our customers, never again they had issues with money in the middle attacks. This is how a transaction should look like, as I was explaining. Foreign terminal, own terminal, receiving the transactions into the switch, and then you process it internally, and you have to go through the complete validations and internal processes in order to grant that this transaction is not fraudulent, is okay, and you can authorize it or decline depending on the validations that you did. So again, this is important that this part, the backend side, is not blind when you're having an issue or man in the middle attack. These are, again, just examples of the different rules that you can create, like X number of international transactions within Y hours for the same card, or a conjunction of cards in the same geolocation. You can also identify X number of transactions by international cards into your network in the last Y hours, or X or more bank cards carrying out withdrawals on the same foreign terminal within Y minutes. So these are just examples of what you can create in terms of alerts based on any possible rule you can imagine that can be defined. Okay, let's talk fifth point. We are now in the middle of the presentation, or a bit more than that. Supervised and unsupervised machine learning. Important is not just being able to alert, monitor, and detect in real time. It is important also to understand the changes, to understand the behavior of our customers. COVID pandemic created really a revolution on understanding a big change, a huge change related to how customers reacted to payments during the pandemic. Less physical transactions, maybe in some channels we have detected between 40 to 60% decrease, but in other channels like mobile or online transactions, we have situations where our customers have been experiencing up to 400% increase in certain types of transactions. So not being able to understand that change could bring you to a situation where you will not be prepared for monitoring properly. So our solution, because it learns dynamically, understanding that change of behavior, will identify and avoid false positives and identify real positives in terms of fraud, because it learns itself directly from the transactions, the transactions that are okay and the transactions that are declined or fraudulent. So important is to have a module and an algorithm that is able to detect that and adapt itself automatically in order to incorporate, to add in these new behaviors, okay? And COVID has been the best example to understand a drastic change that we all of us suffered during this year and whatever that we have been living with the COVID pandemic. Important is the velocity and also the capability of streaming data. By the end of 2024, 75% of enterprises will shift from piloting to operationalizing artificial intelligence, driving a 5 times increase in streaming data and analytics infrastructures. If you don't have the data in real time, having the capability to also feed other solutions in real time would be impossible. So again, I told you at the beginning of the presentation, we are going to talk about a lot about data. Data is the most important thing, and it is a common factor to all the presentation and all the webinar. Without the data, you will not be able to do this, or at least doing it manually is going to be a nightmare. So again, capability of having the capability of having the reaction and the data available to interact and to integrate that data with other solutions, it is absolutely fundamental. Again, the behavioral analysis, you know, the capability of having not just, we talked about digesting the data in real time, analyzing, decoding, and then modeling that data, but also the analysis of the data, okay? So sometimes fraudsters, they use different types of attacks. And you need to be able to understand not just the content of the transaction, but also the behavior of your customers. Give you an example. If a customer is using an iMac or a MacBook Pro, an Apple platform, and you have the behavior of that customer being logging into your interbank, your e-banking system, you can trace that. So you can understand that this customer is a Mac lover. And if suddenly he's starting to use a Windows PC, not with Chrome or with Safari, and he's using Firefox, you need to understand that that's not a change of the behavior on the transaction per se, on the behavior of the customer, but on the means that he's using to connect that differ from his previous historical data. Also, the way that he interacts in terms of logging in, you can add physical biometrics, you can geolocate, you can mobile fingerprint data, again, model, IT network connected, etc. But also the type of activity that also is related to fraudsters, that is changing passwords or changing addresses or requesting duplicates of cards or accesses, or resetting passwords. Also, the velocity they are spending and the time they are spending in certain platforms. So that is also part of the analysis that you could do if you have access to the data, and the algorithm will help you to detect these changes. You don't need anything else. We just need INETCO insight, data capture, and being able to access that data. So behavioral analysis, super important to fight against fraud. This would be the 7th point, that is more related to case management and automated for workflows. Once a transaction has been declared fraud, you can let the system learn by itself, or you can integrate that into your workflows, your internal workflows. And that will go through analysts, fraud analysts, and even if you have some hierarchy workflows, it will need to go through a supervisor as well. And you can have the administrator of that algorithm also to have access to change, if it is manually configured, to change some parameters. So the way you can create workflows to understand if finally that transaction that was declared a fraud, it is a fraud or it's not a fraud. And then the system will learn by those reviews or complete investigations of your teams. So again, the system is not just fully automatic to make decisions, but also can be integrated into your organization for further investigation and determine the different variables that could be affecting the calculation in real time. And then PSD2. We are all aware about PSD2 impact in the banking industry, which is highly involved with having the doors open and connecting to other entities, but also using API connections for your own purpose. So we can also detect any possible traffic flow, what is being sent and received from specific API connections, and avoiding the orchestration of possible attacks. We know that there are several, I would say, entities at the international level that could orchestrate attacks that we can detect and avoid, determining speed, time processes, and also volume of transactions and amounts and behaviors. But above all, the capability of having full control when you have a door open to third-party entities or third-party applications to control everything that is going from your system to their system and back. So that channel is a risk, and you know it. And the idea that we have and implemented in different customers is to have full control of all traffic, all protocols, all information being sent from the internal infrastructure to the API to third-party entities. So, and just almost finishing, I think we are okay on time. Important thing in here to have in mind is that these are the 5 pillars that drive our solution. First time, real-time event monitoring and data capture. Again, data is the most important thing. Real-time profiling of all transactions, full decoding and correlation across the complete journey of all transactions and protocols. Real-time alerts, artificial intelligence and machine learning. Real-time transaction and risk scoring and blocking. So we can not just calculate risk scoring for every single transaction, but we can also block transactions in real time. And then applying that to real-time intelligence streaming, analyzing or exporting the data for other purposes that you might have to use that data for, and the analytics capabilities that are brought by our solution, but also you can use your own business intelligence solution to exploit that data for other purposes. So where are being used basically? As you can understand, during the whole webinar, we have been talking about 3 main pillars. So real-time fraud detection and prevention, this is more related to CISOs, fraud teams, security teams, one of our main customers. The second one would be all the IT and operations teams with monitoring of the infrastructure, communication, customer experience, etc., etc. So all related to IT teams. And last but not least, all the business units, mainly channel managers and product managers, but also customer experience and innovation departments, that they are more related not to the operation per se by itself, but the understanding of what are the volumes they are managing. If they're introducing a new product into the market, they want to understand the engagement, the adoption of that payment method, or whatever situation that they want to analyze by product, by channel, timings of usage, period of the day, etc., etc. All data is available to be used for business purposes as well. So again, what are the main benefits? Reduce operational costs, improve transaction stability, and solve issues 85% faster. Improve your product profitability, channel profitability and usage, and customer engaging, adding value and reducing friction. And last but not least, and the most important thing for this webinar, is reduce financial loss risk, improve trust and safety through faster payment fraud detection with a complete set of tools and capabilities that we bring to our customers. This would be just a bit of the techie conversation. In the left side of your screen, you have the different channels where a customer can interact with all your systems. Our system will collect that data, will decode and process it, and will integrate it with the machine learning capabilities that can be running in unsupervised mode or supervised mode. Those transactions can be also, as I was saying at the beginning, all messages correlated, where they apply. You can be applying all the rules that we have been discussing. After that, of course, scoring is calculated, and fraud analysts, fraud supervisors can engage with those alerts and situations that need to be reviewed, and the administrator can change the thresholds, limits, and variables that affect the calculations or definitions that need to be taken into account. And that data will be stored into the inside processor and afterwards can be used for other purposes, even exporting it to your corporate database. Last, and I think that would be, we are close to the end of the session from a presentation perspective. This is a map of our, just an example of what customers we have and the use cases they use our solution for. In this case, ATM monitoring, POS monitoring, car performance monitoring, channel, card and customer analytics, payment fraud detection and prevention, payment switch monitoring and audit. I didn't refer that, but I'm going to talk just a second about that. And also business intelligence streaming for analytics, fraud and cash management. We have from banks, payment processor, card issuers, and retailers. Let me talk about audit just a bit on the audit side, because we keep all the data for 12 months, and if it is exported, it's indefinite. You can keep that data forever. From an auditing perspective, you have to take into account that sometimes the auditing processes, when you have claims with customers, or you are receiving situations where you need to provide some data from a legal entity or whatever situation that might require historical data, you need to go through different databases, different departments, silos, and get that data. It's not the same format. It's not sometimes clear enough. So with us, you don't need that. You can go to our database and explore that data easily, because you can go through dates, channels, type of transactions, identifying customers, merchants, terminal IDs, whatever you would like to inquire the database for, it's there for you to use. So the audit all the auditing purposes for these capabilities are available and simple to use. So the forensic analysis is quite simple to do. And summary, last slide, that would be, as I was saying, unexpected declines, reduce failures and unexpected declines by 25%. That gives stability to the customers and better experience. Improve customer engagement and profitability. If you reduce the time, the downtime, if you increase the uptime, you increase the number of transactions, you increase the satisfaction of your customers and your income because you are processing more transactions than before. As I was saying, reducing the mean time to repair 85%, that means that you will reduce your operational costs, more efficient, and lower your support costs. Detect and blocking payment fraud in milliseconds, avoiding also false positives, and also meeting all the regulatory compliance aspects that you can get out of our database, and you can use the data for reporting, for even being sure that you are controlling and under the SLAs you are required to be. So that would be all from a presentation perspective. That's a general concept. I will now stop sharing. I think that we covered a lot of things, a lot of ideas, concepts, use cases, and I would like now to have some feedback from your side, questions, etc. Please go ahead.
Dear Carlos, thank you for this excellent presentation. It was quite informing, I have to admit. There were some areas that were quite new for me. And as you said, I would leave the floor for questions. I'm quite sure that our attendees, especially from banking industry, do have them, and they would like to know more how some specifics or specific solutions within this product works.
Sure.
A dragi moji, ako imate pitanja, evo, molim vas da iskoristimo sada vrijeme i da nešto novo dobijemo od Carlosa. Evo kolega Enes Ajanović. Enese, možeš se javiti ako hoćeš uživo ili...
Može.
Odlično.
Okay. I have a question. Is this system monitor transactions besides transactions that are collected to the cards? I mean,
Yes.
how it's possible if we know that some transaction standards like SWIFT have their own encryption and format of data?
Okay, so if I understood correctly, the question is if we can monitor the payload content of transactions if they are encrypted, right?
Exactly, because we have requirements that all transactions, even in the internal payment system, should be encrypted somehow.
That's correct. That's correct. And I know absolutely with the PCI DSS regulation, of course, all transactions between certain hubs need to be encrypted. Our solution has several ways to handle with encryption. You can put remember that this is installed in your data center, is managed by you, like any other solution that you have for the payment industry. So we can have the key installed inside. Remember that, again, this is run and managed by you. We don't have, as INETCO, after the installation is done, we don't have access to that. So you can input the key, the private key, in order to decode in real time. We can also interact with an HSM if we need to get every single authorization for every single package. So that interaction with the HSM can be done as well. So, but of course, we need to decrypt that data with the proper procedure in order to open the packages and have access to the complete payload and the complete field description of every single protocol. In parallel with that, I would tell you that the solution has no access from outside. You never can see a complete PAN or the PAN POS or the PAN bank or the card number or the certain fields are or masked or encrypted, and you cannot see that. And the database is as well encrypted, accomplishing the PCI DSS regulation. So I don't know if with that I could answer your question.
Yes, thank you. One more question from my side. Do you have some product or some solution which can track the Bitcoin transactions or do something with the Bitcoin transaction? Yes, blockchain.
Blockchain. Okay. Right now, we are working on that. As a matter of fact, our company has been named to be part of the working group in Canada for blockchain development. And I can tell you that the version we have currently in the market is not supporting blockchain right now, the current version, but the next version will support as well certain type of blockchain technology.
So basically, is that mean that you are able to see which Bitcoin wallet do transaction with the switching or with another entity with that system?
We don't have that capability at this moment with the current version, but we will have it as soon as we implement the blockchain technology to our system. But yes, of course, it's in the roadmap because you know, blockchain technology is something that it's getting spread everywhere. So yeah, of course, we are counting on including, I guess, very fast, very soon, blockchain technology as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Enesa, hvala. Imamo li još pitanja? Dear Carlos, it seems that we do not have more questions. Kenane, da li ti želiš nešto dodati na kraju?
Pa ono što je, sorry Carlos, we are talking in local language.
Please go ahead.
Maybe Carlos, just if you can go back to that slide where we see the channels and the system and everything, so you can share just to make a point over there. I think it will be it is very important to underline it.
Okay, 1 second. I will share that slide again. 1 second.
It was, I think, one of the last three.
Wait a second. Okay. I think you are referring to this one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Pa ono što je u stvari glavna prednost rješenja koje INETCO je pripremio je u stvari da sa jednim sistemom se pokrivaju svi digitalni, odnosno elektronski kanali. Znači, bez obzira da li govorimo o e-bankingu, m-bankingu, posovima, bankomatima, čak i komunikaciji unutar samih poslovnica, govorimo o blagajničkom poslovanju i aplikaciji koja se izvršava na šalteru banke. Svi ti protokoli su zastupljeni unutar rješenja i ukoliko nisu, neki od njih se može naknadno dodati. Ali obzirom da je većina tih stvari koristi standardne protokole, govorimo o ISO i XML stvarima, kroz jedno rješenje imamo nadzor apsolutno svih kanala i ono što je bitno, sam sistem radi analizu njih u sinergiji svih kanala, tako da je moguće, na primjer, napraviti alert koji registruje da je korisnik napravio transakciju sa svog mobitela iz, ne znam, Bihaća, a onda je sa svojom karticom pokušao platiti nešto u Londonu. upravo ta omni-channel pristup je prava snaga samog sistema. I one dvije stvari koje vidite ovdje u sredini na ovom slajdu, a to je da sistem može da radi samostalno, znači da kroz mašinsko učenje, kroz vještačku inteligenciju može da stavlja scoring ili da blokira transakcije ili da radi u smislu nekog call centra ili fizičkog nadzora samih transakcija od strane uposlenika banke. Znači, postoje oba načina funkcionisanja. Upravo te dvije stvari, znači jedno je pristup kroz sve kanale i drugo totalno automatski ili, ajmo ga nazvati, neki poluautomatski način rada, zaokružuju ovaj softver tako da pored njega malo nekih fraud pokušaja u stvari može da prođe i situacije, čak i neke koje smo posvjedočili, koje se i kod nas dešavale u zadnje vrijeme, gdje je određeni kanal bude odsječen od same mreže banke, gdje oni koji rade fraud pokušavaju da zaobiđu kontrole koje banka ima postavljene, to i uspiju sa implementacijom INETCO rješenja koji u stvari se integriše na mrežnom nivou i tu nadzire sve transakcije. Mi rješavamo taj problem i sprječavamo da do tog frauda dođe.
Hvala, Kenan. Evo, Enes ima još neko pitanje. Enes, molim te.
Hoćemo na engleskom ili na našem?
Sve jedno.
Imam par pitanja. Ova platforma koju ste prikazali ovdje, je li ovo hardversko, softversko rješenje ili je ovo samo softver za koji treba određeni hardver da se nabavi?
U osnovi rješenje je softversko, ali postoji preporučeni hardver u smislu potrebni su 1-2 servera, na jednom na kojem se izvršava sama aplikacija, na drugom na kojem se drže podaci, odnosno informacije o transakcijama. Imamo preporučenu konfiguraciju i naravno od samog korisnika zavisi da možda već ima unutar svog ili privatnog oblaka ili ne znam nije unutar svoje infrastrukture već servere koji su odgovarajući, ukoliko ne može ih nabaviti ili od nas ili na tržištu i mi ćemo...
Je li podržana virtualizacija?
Jeste.
Na koji način i da li ovaj sistem može da detektuje cash out bankomata gdje nema uopšte mrežnog saobraćaja? Znači, nema uopšte autorizacije, nema transakcije do procesnog centra, već čisti ATM malware koji prazni bankomat.
Kad su u pitanju bankomati koji su veoma osjetljivi i veoma često na cilj prevara, sistem osim što radi nadzor same komunikacije između bankomata i hosta ili bankomata i core sistema banke, pored toga na bankomate se instalira i klijent koji radi na lokalnom nivou bankomata, sam nadzor nad njim i njegove funkcionalnosti i prijavljuje sva dešavanja centralnom nadzornom sistemu.
Aha, znači to postoji kao endpoint neki klijent koji se stavlja na bankomat.
Tako je.
Koji priča s ovim. A koji su OS-ovi podržani na tim bankomatima?
Na većini bankomata je Windows, ja ne znam da postoji jedan, ali generalno i Windows XP i 7 i 10 rade bez problema.
Aha, ok. Hvala.
Možete vidjeti ovdje sa lijeve strane, znači svi oni standardni protokoli, recimo ISO 8583 koji inače se koristi za posave, često se koristi i za bankomate, je podržan NDC, XML jer obično recimo klijent server aplikacije unutar banaka na šalterima koriste neki XML ili JSON, znači svi ti protokoli su nama poznati i mi u stvari možemo da radimo analizu paketa svih tih protokola.
Znači, faktički ovaj agent ne mora da bude span port, ne mora da bude neki mirror saobraćaja, već je dovoljno da taj agent priča sa ovim sistemom, jel?
Pa to je
govorim samo za taj dio konkretno.
Da, ali gube se sve ove prednosti, gube se sve ove dodatne prednosti zato što mi ako pokrijemo kompletan put transakcije, evo imamo ga trenutno prikazanog na ekranu, gdje transakcija ide recimo konkretno sa bankomata kroz bankomatsku mrežu prema nekom firewallu ili entry pointu unutar mreže banke, kroz gateway ide razne switchevi i tako dalje prema u pravcu procesora, odnosno hosta, veliki put, daleki je to put da pređe i ako bi se samo bazirali na to da pokrijemo put od bankomata do samog sistema unutar banke, nije to the whole 9 yards, što kaže, nego pokrijemo samo jedan dio.
Jasno, nego mislim, treba poprilično veliki storage, poprilično veliki CPU da samelje sve ovu,
da to kažem, je istina.
Jer je veliki, mislim, veliki je taj broj transakcija vrlo veliki, faktički morate imati jedan sistem paralelan koji je, da kažem, hardverski velik ko čitava banka da bi mogu da samelje ovo.
Pa nije to baš tako, mi smo radili evaluaciju, čak par banaka je dobilo od nas, bili su malo aktivniji u ovom polju pa su već tražili neke ponude i tako dalje. Otprilike govorimo o jednom serveru sa 4 procesora, eventualno 8, sa malo jače rama, jer šta je fazon? Čitav sistem radi u stvari na big data principu, obično se koristi Hadoop kao storage podataka, koji je sam po sebi real time i koristi se za vještačku inteligenciju i u big data smislu. I onda nije to onaj klasični čuvamo sve transakcije na taj način, jer on kad transakcija prođe, on odradi svoj machine learning i onda tu transakciju stora negdje na neki offline medij, jer one nema potrebe da budu tu svo vrijeme dok ne zatrebaju opet. A machine learning sam odrađuje to učenje svoje kako bi one transakcije koje dolaze sljedeće mogao adekvatno da analizira i da dodijeli im scoring.
Znači, koliko sam vas razumio, postoji i dio koji je predviđen za tu neku retention, za neku istoriju tih transakcija i svega toga.
Tako je. Jer u osnovi mi unutar samog sistema analizacionog drže se podaci obično godinu dana, ali kod nas i zakon i pravila regulatora zahtijevaju obično to bude 10 godina iz tog razloga, ali se to ne čuva u live sistemu koji radi upravo tu transaction monitoring, nego nakon što istekne godina dana, te transakcije se eksportuju u neki mass storage i to je to.
Jasno. Hvala.
Nema na čemu.
Hvala, Enese. Imamo li još pitanja? Evo, ako nemamo više pitanja, ja se presjećati na engleski. If you do not have more questions, I would like to thank you, Carlos, for this really excellent presentation. I would like to thank all the participants that attended this webinar. Kenan as our partner that is really supporting us and working with us already for the second year. I would like to thank you, Amra, who is supporting us with the administration in the background. And Carlos, I would like to just ask you for the final word, if you want to.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure, and I will be glad to attend any comments that you might have eventually more privately by email to Kenan or the association, and of course to me. Just to highlight that I realized that they were speaking about the different channels, protocols that can be digested, and the way the information is captured and being forwarded. So I included a slide that was not included in the original presentation, which shows the complete path inside a data center. So I will send this last version of the presentation and that can be shared with all participants without any doubts. And thank you very much for the opportunity, and looking forward to working with anyone that should felt that this solution could be an added value to their current operations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carlos.
Thank you.
Kenan, želiš ti nešto reći na kraju?
Ništa, to je to, da se zahvalim svima. Hvala Senade, Amre na organizaciji. Hvala svima koji su prisustvovali ovoj prezentaciji. Senad će poslati prezentaciju, imamo snimljen video, slobodno nas kontaktirajte za bilo kakva dodatna pitanja, možemo organizovati i dodatne razgovore na ovu ili neku drugu tema koje Printek generalno pokriva. To je to, ugodan ostatak dana svima i hvala vam još jednom.
Hvala i od mene i evo vidimo se nekom narednom prilikom.